with my dad on Coffee Talk, and it is not Tuesday or 10 o'clock. It's the day after Thanksgiving. So I'm drinking some coffee from, well, it was some local coffee, but it's kind of cold now because it's from right before lunch. My mom made cinnamon rolls,
Yeah.
and you've got your Thorn Crown mug.
Yes, I do. I love this mug.
We only,
Guess where it came from?
we only have two of those in the whole world. I have one and he has one. So, but it's our Thorn Crown Project mug. But we wanted to talk a little bit today about some of our first jobs. So that's what we're going to chat about as soon, right after the opening here. Earlier this week, I was working on a job where I was actually digging out some stumps and stuff, and it's funny, it sounds like I was being a logger or something, but it's related to film. I was actually preparing a set for a film project, and so I was working with my chainsaw, and it just made me think about my very first summer job that I ever had when I was 12 years old. Now, I did have little jobs in Tennessee and stuff where I'd feed the neighbors' dogs and stuff like that. But my very first real summer
Yeah,
job,
but those don't really.
it was a job, I guess.
for
But it wasn't a
those,
summer job like this. The summer job it was at Border Lumber in Montana, and I was cutting logs into post length, I think.
I don't remember.
It was out of they had a
Oh,
big
yeah.
pile of logs that was too small to cut into lumber.
Yeah,
And so I was just, I think, 8-foot lengths.
yeah, that would make
or
sense.
6 or 8 foot
I
lengths.
forgot that you worked there at Border. I was thinking you did something down at South or North Eureka, but
Well, when I was 16, I worked with you there in
okay. Miller's,
Yeah, with Roman Miller at his log yard first, and then out at
Edith
Spring
Miller's,
Creek
Spring
Sawmill.
Creek.
Yeah,
Edith Miller's sawmill.
yeah, and we. But so my first job was I was cutting things to length of the saw, and
I remember.
I had a hard
something
hat.
there.
I had hearing protection. I had something, but I was 12. So when I look at Peter now and he's 9, I think, okay, 3 more years and it just seems like a different world. But it was a
You
different
must
world.
have had more
Well,
grits or gravy for breakfast, not gravy, but
yeah, it just happens. I think there's a difference in our cultures too. I mean, growing
Yes.
up Amish, and
well, the thing about Border Lumber,
yeah,
to us, it in a way it seems like, well, oh my goodness, that is not part of us, but the management there was almost totally from our community there in
yeah,
Rexford. You know,
Yeah,
Alan
they
Miller
were-
was our esteemed leader.
yeah. They were completely. I mean, so everybody there was pretty much Amish or somehow
There were
connected.
some that weren't, but they were
Yeah,
glad to work there. The leadership, I mean, the guys in charge were mostly.
yeah. So
We go to church with them.
So when I think about it, like that was my first job, and I remember working together, getting firewood down from the mountain and all of that stuff. That was now almost 30 years ago, but
And I'm glad
that you don't
it's in
have
the past.
you don't have to go get lumber.
I don't have to get 30 cords of wood every winter just to make the winter.
Yeah, but that's what we were doing, and
Yes.
so I was thinking, in terms of the different jobs I've had and different places I've worked, one of the things that I felt like I learned from, and I don't know that you ever like sat down and said this, but this is what I learned, was that if there are people who are working and they're doing something with their hands or skill wise, if there's someone else doing it, then I can do that too. So and the way I sometimes say it is, if I'm a man and a man is doing it, then I can do that too. I might have to learn something, I might make a few mistakes, but I just had that sort of a can-do attitude. And
And I think that's a good attitude to have, because if somebody else is doing it,
yeah,
we can do it too.
yeah, that was the idea. So I feel like that's what I got from my Anabaptist heritage. So what I thought would be interesting is if you told us a bit about some of your first jobs, And I have the map here if you want to show us where you were.
Well, we
but-
can in a minute.
Yeah, but if you want to, I don't know, because you started on the farm. So when did you actually get hired out to work for other people besides
Well,
your dad?
This would have been there in Michigan, and I would have been anywhere between 15 and 19 years old, because that's all I can. Those are the years
Okay.
we lived in Michigan, and the job that I remember the best was between our farm work, when our neighbor, who has a big farm, they did a lot of big farming over there, and the older fellow was Embry Spade, and there's still Spades around, I think. They're, probably his grandsons.
That was up in Bronson, Michigan area.
Well, yes, but he was in Orland, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Pull the map up and yes.
Oh, yeah, here.
And let's look at this a little bit because it's kind of interesting. See,
So this is the Michigan Indiana state line here,
and then,
and then here's the toll road.
which was not very far from our house.
And so here
All right,
comes.
now just keep on moving.
so this is Bawden Road here.
Bawden Road. Here
So
goes-
was this the farm you grew up on?
Yes.
So right here. Let's see. Did they change the outbuildings much since?
Oh, yes.
Oh, they went English. They're no longer Amish there. Look at all these cars.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then
Yeah, okay, now just pull the map up past the toll road.
go down south.
South, yes. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Too far. Okay.
And right here, if you can point this out over here, that group of buildings
This
right
right
there,
here.
that would have been the primary, place where Embry Spade's operation was. And the main thing I did was help haul hay when they needed that. We.
Yeah.
I think we a lot of times just
So-
stacked hay behind the baler as they pulled it through the fields and unloaded it into the barns.
So
You
what
know-
is this still an Amish? Is this an English farm or an Amish farm?
English farm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I learned some very valuable lessons from him. One of the guys who worked there rode in his motorcycle one day and it's parked there, and then we looked at it. We were walking towards the house, and we looked at it and said, "I wouldn't touch any of those things with a 10-foot pole," and I never did. But I've been thinking it might be fun now.
well.
I'm older now.
So okay. So this is
It
where.
was just across the toll road from
So
us.
just across the toll road. So this was your farm,
Yes.
and then my mom's was growing up around here somewhere.
This way.
So over
Now let's keep going. Whoa.
there's the Orland Road.
Okay, we have to go back. I think it's changed a lot.
Okay.
But that was the house side. The house is still there.
This one right
Yes.
here. Okay. So this is
And-
the house.
And her dad built this barn.
Okay. Right
But
here.
back there, I don't know where that came
So
from.
this is a new barn.
Yes.
Okay.
But,
This barn was here, and this house.
yes. But when they first moved there, over here, they lived in Michigan, but they milked their cows.
Oh, down here.
Yes, right there.
Over here. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's when it was. So they lived in Michigan. They milked
That
the
was
cows in Indiana.
less than
Okay.
a quarter mile down the road.
All right. So that
Yeah.
that was where that happened.
So a lot of my early job things there were just with Embry, and so there was a couple of days when I didn't work in the hay. I remember him giving me that was the day before we didn't have weed eaters, but what did I have? Someone.
Oh yeah, that sense thing where you had to
Yeah.
whack the weeds. A
Um,
real weed whacker, not a pretend
I had a
weed
little
whacker.
bit more trouble with that thing.
Yeah.
But
I-
we got it done.
I remember having to use a weed whacker and thinking it was fun. So back at
Oh, that was fun for the first 2 minutes.
so when I was 12 and I was doing my summer job, I didn't actually keep the money because we put it into our school fund or whatever. And the idea was that you guys were buying all of our food, clothing, and everything, and so I didn't like have my own money.
Oh, this wasn't my money either. Everything went into.
So back when you were
Yeah.
home,
Because those days, go back to the map. Let's just take a quick look. Dad kind of extended himself
Oh.
there.
okay, well
In
there we go.
Michigan. Yeah. Pull it down.
So
No, go back
So
to,
back to your farm.
Yes.
So here's
Down. See, Dad, well, no. Let's go up.
Oh, I see. Here we go.
Right. But see, that block.
This block right here.
Yeah, I think we owned that whole thing.
That whole
It's
thing.
probably 160 acres.
So you had was there
The
woods?
40
there
acres
was
of
woods.
woods.
40 acres of
Yeah,
woods.
that was very nice.
Yeah, so this got to be your. This was
Yeah.
the whole thing.
This part of the farm had a lot more rocks in it. There were rocks back here.
Rocks here.
Along the edge that were so, I mean, I'm talking rocks as big as a small car. And,
Right, and then
and we plowed around them. There's nothing to do. But
So-
there we picked up rocks every spring. Over there, the soil was perfect, no rock inside.
so you're saying up over here was good land.
Yes, from there down. It's like
Okay.
there was a strip.
Yeah.
Not just us, but down here and up there.
So you had to. Well, you were 11 when your baby sister was born.
That was in Missouri.
So then you're the only guy working with your dad on this.
Yeah.
How many acres that is? That
Yeah.
looks like.
We usually farmed 120 because
Yeah,
everything.
that'd be 120
Yeah.
acres.
We had corn and then he had some rye, which I didn't like, but hey,
And
it
so.
was better than corn. We had to
So
husk
you're
all that
working
corn.
here, taking care of this
Now
whole
those
thing.
fences are all gone. There was pasture, there was hay, there was corn.
Up
There
in
were
here.
fields everywhere. I have to
Yeah.
sit down a while and
Yeah.
look at things.
Now it's
you
one
know.
big field.
So we moved there in '73, and sometime that spring, our neighbors moved on down there.
Oh,
Did you
down
get-
this way.
Right there, that right there.
Oh, right here, this one.
That's
yeah.
where Jonah and Ada Hirschberger lived back
Ah,
in
okay.
the day.
So this was the
Yeah,
Hirschbergers
they
here.
moved in shortly after we did. That first winter, I remember about in March, we had a snowstorm that was big, and the roads were
So-
deep. There was 3 or 4 feet of snow here on the what do you call the Indiana Michigan Road.
This road right
Yes, but what happened? The milk trucks couldn't come in because we were milking cows already, and the milk trucks had to go every day. And but this section of road, it's between Steuben County, Indiana, and Branch County, Michigan, and both counties put that stretch of road off till the very last.
Okay.
Hopefully, the other one would do it first.
here.
you
Oh.
know.
So they were not
Yeah.
doing it. They were hoping the other person would actually take care of it.
Right.
So-
This section in here coming down,
Yeah.
going over, and then crossing over
So did.
on the toll road.
So wait, is this where Joan and I Hirschbergers lived when I was a little boy too?
Yeah.
So like I just remember we actually came down here and stayed here
Mhm.
when they were on a trip or something, and we were doing their chores.
They had a lot of
And I
trees
remember
in the
going in
front
this
yard.
barn.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So they lived there when you were
Yeah.
still living there, and then
There's a story I have to tell about this. I don't know why it has nothing
Yeah.
to do with work. But living here, I was like 15 to 19 years old.
yeah,
We could see the traffic on the Indiana Toll Road. And, we just looked south.
right,
And there were thousands of trucks a day.
like 18-wheelers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew I could never drive a big truck. I mean, that's not the Amish thing to do. And I felt like I was Amish, but I still had a secret to say, wouldn't that be fun? Let me have this mouse.
Yeah, let me turn it back on over there for a minute first.
Yeah,
and
go
then-
back to Jonah Hirschbergers. And there were
Here we go.
There were
Now you can go wherever.
zoom in a little bit right there, right there, right there.
Yeah, and then
And
let
we
me-
had
I need
a-
to transition it here for you. For them.
Yes,
I'm,
they need to be able to see that.
there we go. Now you can see the map.
Right. But there was a big grain truck because a lot of our corn we did, and all the farmers there, a lot of our corn was loaded up into grain trucks and sent to Maumee, Ohio. I guess that's on the lake or the river, and that's from there it was shipped.
Yeah.
And this truck, I remember seeing it. I don't know where it was, but this long truck pulled up past that corner, started backing up, backed around the corner, backed into the driveway, backed all the way out here, backed into this shed, right where or front of it, right where he needed to be. He backed all the way around there, never stopping. That was pretty good. It impressed me, and I thought, now wouldn't that be something?
So you were like, if I'm ever a trucker, I want to be able to back up a truck like
Well,
that.
I never was quite that good, but I know a lot of drivers who were not near that good.
Yeah.
You know,
But he backed that whole distance, and
Yeah.
that was. I just remember, I was 7 in Tennessee, and my mom made me promise I would never drive an 18-wheeler or truck. Yeah.
yeah, she did.
Later, she released me from that and said it's
Okay.
fine if I want to do it. But
Yeah.
so
Well, see, there would have been a way around that because you could have got a bigger truck and had 24
Yeah.
wheels or something.
Or something got it right. Well, she didn't say 18 wheels. She just said truck.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
drive a truck.
Well, I
So-
forget what was the biggest one I ever hauled, but we did some heavy haul loads, and we had lots of tires in some of those
So-
rigs.
So when you're doing your first jobs there, like, when I say, well, I was 12 and I was doing a chainsaw and all that stuff, like, it seems kind of so far away, but I sometimes feel like the idea of the cultures being so different, like that people think that, say, your first job, even though you're giving your money back to the family farm, that your first job would be different. Like, how were you did you just automatically have awesome work ethic, or like are there Amish
Well-
people that you hire and they're lazy, or like how? I mean,
There were other people that worked there who were sort of lazy, and I could be better than them any day. There were several things about working for Emery, and it wasn't full time. So I just did whenever the hay was in season. They would pick me up, carry us over there. This is another great thing about working there. I thought this was awesome, because this was one of the first times that about lunchtime, we'd all pile in this international pickup or whatever it was, drive to town and have lunch at one of these diners. And they would we would have these big trays with a big old cheeseburger and fries. And
hey Wilma, so you're Hostetler. Question: Are there lazy Amish people? That's part of the question I sometimes get, because people, they see our work ethic and they're like, okay, you work so hard, what is it? And then they just blame it all on my genes. So any of you that are listening, if you know this answer, you can comment about it. But I'm sure that there's
in my jobs
variation.
during the first years
Yeah.
that I worked out like that, yes, there were lazy days.
Now,
There were the days that I just didn't feel like working.
and then there's other days where you felt mischievous and did things you shouldn't have done.
Yes.
I heard about some of these stories.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just tell one right here. Well, let's go back to the map.
Okay.
I guess
Here, I will just do this to us.
I don't have pictures from those days, because when I was 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, I didn't take a lot of pictures with my iPhone
Right. Okay. There's the map
for some
now.
reason. How many years? You said when you had your first job, how many years ago was that?
So that would have been in 1992, and
There in
we're
Montana.
2021 now. So that we're almost 30 years out from there.
Yeah.
29 years ago.
I don't even want to know how many years ago it was when I was working for Emery Spade, but we can go back. It would have been like 73, 74, 75, so 25, 50, 60 years ago. Oh.
So anyway, you're here working on with
Well, one of the jobs I did
it's down this
with
road.
Emery, we were,
Right there's Anderson Lake.
what is this? I can't,
So this is Anderson Lake. There's Rearson Road, and then you're still going along the
well, it looks like this road here. I don't know what we called it. Anyway, Emery had a field over here, and
so just
we picked rocks up there. We used a little the Farmall H tractor.
okay.
Now,
Did you drive it?
well, I wasn't supposed to.
Okay.
Let's see who could see me back there.
Right.
Except God.
No, there's Glenn Lehman said hi. Howdy.
Howdy.
So
Layman sounds like one of my Indiana
yeah.
connections. I don't know.
So you're working with
But usually I did not drive a tractor.
okay,
But I wanted to.
right?
Bronson didn't have that. We lived there. This was the Bronson, Michigan community.
And you weren't supposed to drive the tractor at that
Yeah.
time. So
Mostly didn't. But there were times when I did.
so specifically, and I always thought it was Emery Spade, but you said it wasn't Emery Spade. There was some job you worked where you painted a vehicle. That's what I want to hear about.
Please. Well, another thing we did, I went with the carpenter crew, and part-time during those early years. And it was run by, I guess we can use names here, Jake Brennenberger.
Yeah.
There's still Brennenberger descendants all over up there.
Right.
And there's James Jr. He might listen to this. His brother, I probably won't, but I could tell stories about him till the... Anyway.
So
But he was the foreman.
okay.
And I went along several times, when we had extra time at home. Specifically on one job, I painted the barn.
Okay.
And it was a tall barn.
So you're painting the barn.
Yeah, it was white. And I don't know, because these guys, they were always teasing me and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a driver. He was another young guy. He drove this car. I don't really think it was his car. Technically, it was.
Okay. Oh. So you're saying you think an Amish guy owned this car?
Yeah.
And because you're working for Jake Brennenberger and Jake Brenner, so you're okay. I
Whatever
understand
happened,
that situation. Okay.
Just in a misguided moment, I grabbed my paint and my brush, walked by the car, painted the driver's name on the side of the car. And it was an older car.
Like nice,
it was a
nice
station
penmanship, or just
boom, 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 boom. You know.
Okay. So then you kept the job, or what happened next?
Well, I finished it. Yeah, I didn't get.
They didn't fire you over
No.
that? What did they say? I'm very curious, but
I don't know what all this said,
yeah.
but I
Yeah.
figured out that I did something bad.
Right. Well, now
You don't paint a car. You don't touch
with
somebody's
a
car.
barn paint with a paintbrush.
He had several
Hey,
cars
Sasha,
like that.
thanks for joining in.
He was able to.
So,
where are you seeing all these?
oh,
names?
right here, just
Yes.
and Dad was coming in here, looking around the room, going, okay, so what is it you're always looking at? So what happens when I'm in here is I have two monitors, and so this monitor down here, when I'm looking here, I see comments, I see what is going out, and then up here is my other monitor. So when I'm looking up, that's what's happening, because both the cameras are over
That's
here
where
on the
we
side.
usually see the pictures on top.
Yeah.
And the only picture we had today was to
Oh.
we'll put that.
Hey, so your sister Wilma's watching with Jody right now. So
Okay.
so Wilma, are we helping her fall asleep, or do we need to be a bit more boring, or what should we do here? And Glenn says you know his dad Calvin.
Oh,
Lehman.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we communicate on Facebook here
Yeah.
a little bit.
Okay.
Yes, Calvin was a good friend, and I have a lot of memories from back when I was a young boy there in Indiana.
Yeah. So, but I found that. So I have this memory of like we're doing a work day at church. This was even after we left the Amish, and
There in Eureka we did.
they're in
yeah.
Eureka, and so we were having a work day. And
I took my chainsaw. I was really proud of my chainsaw.
which work day are you thinking of?
I don't know.
I was proud of your chainsaw too. I actually.
Well, there was one day when we cut a lot of firewood for the church.
Yes. Oh, that was the day I had my first cup of coffee. That I
Probably.
remember. Not the first one. The first one was in Tennessee, one of those little packs
Oh yeah.
that you had gotten from somewhere, and you made a very bitter, unsweet one with
it
no
was
milk or
from
anything.
The salesman for Saks Dolmar chainsaws.
So that was so it was connected to a chainsaw. So my first coffee was connected to a chainsaw. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that was when I had my first coffee.
But see, yeah, I had to shop, and so I got stuff.
Yeah.
I sold their saws, and he told me once. I'll just say this now. I don't know if I ever did.
Yeah.
He said, well, he finally figured out why Amish kids are so well behaved, because as their parents, we don't raise our voices. We don't yell at you. We don't scream at you.
Okay.
We just say, behave, or I'll just cut your head off.
In the dialect, so no
Yeah.
one knows.
Yeah.
Behave, I hocked a cup up. I don't know. I never heard that from growing up.
Well,
I just,
I told him, I said, it's not true.
I was just naturally good, I guess.
Yeah.
Not really.
Well,
But so
By and
that
large.
Saks Dolmar, that's the one I used for my first. The one that you kept was the one I used for my first job.
right. I
And
kept
then-
when I closed the shop business,
Right.
I kept a big one,
And then
and that was a good one. I found out that the problem most people have with the chainsaws is they don't sharpen them good. Mine, it was super sharp.
yeah, and so you taught me how to sharpen a chainsaw.
Yes.
So my first summer, I'm 12 years old, and so there's all these logs, and some days my sister Ruth would come, and one of us would hold the measuring stick, and the other one would chop, and she actually ran the saw too, like she would.
Yeah, you just touch a log and
we'd
it was cut.
We would cut the log. Well, and so then we would every so often, maybe once a day or depending what was happening, I would sharpen the chainsaw because you taught me how to sharpen it and even how to take the rake teeth down and all that stuff. And I just remember we were cutting, and next to us this was actually an Amish bachelor was over there, and he wasn't used to working on all this, but he'd gotten a chainsaw.
He could be watching.
He could be. I don't know where he is, but he had a chainsaw that he bought at a pawn shop or something.
And it was probably duller than a...
Oh, it was so dull. And so
knife.
so he was working over here, and he kept looking over at us, and and I'm 12, so I feel a little bit inferior when anybody older is around. And so I'm chopping away. So what is Wilma saying? She says for some reason she's thinking about the time our horse didn't behave, but don't know what you're talking about. You're not talking about that. So anyway,
Oh, that's another story. We can touch on that in a minute.
so with the chainsaw thing, finally the bachelor comes over and says, "What are you doing? Your chainsaw just cuts through things. My chainsaw I have to spend so much time. So I said, well, I sharpen it because that's what you taught me to do. And he said, well, I sharpen mine too. And so I remember going and looking at it, and what I discovered was on a chainsaw, you have these teeth like this, and you have to sharpen that front outside corner. That has to be completely sharp.
Raker tooth.
Well, it was just
and the front corner.
So the front corner.
Yeah, a lot of times people had those things curled.
His was so curved down, and it was sharp down here, but it couldn't do anything.
Yeah, it needs to be sharp on top.
And so I felt it was such a funny time because I was 12, and I was like, that chainsaw is not sharp right. Like you need to sharpen it like this, and I tried to show him, and I think he did get it sharper then, but it was the first kind of awareness I had of that. So the other day, when I was cutting stumps out, I actually was cutting out a rock for a while, so I had to sharpen my chainsaw. And I did something I've never done.
Those rocks are not exactly...
Since 1992, I've never done this in my life before. I took the chainsaw, I took the bar off and was cleaning out the junk that was in there. I put the chain on backwards. I started the saw with the chain on backwards and tried to cut something, and it didn't cut well. And I was like, what is wrong with this? And I have it backwards. I had never done that before in my life. I was a little embarrassed, but I was all by myself in the woods. So
it's probably a lot better that you did it now, discovered it yourself, than if I'd have caught you trying to cut a tree when you were 12 years old.
Yeah, so anyhow, thank you for teaching me how to use a chainsaw, because you did. You actually taught me how to use it, how to take care of it. And back in when I was 16, the log yard I worked at, on those cold Montana mornings, the Sax-Delmar would start second, maybe third pull. The Husqvarnas in that area would start second, third pull. And the Stills, we would always have to work on them. That was just my memory.
Well,
Still was a fine chainsaw, but it was a hard start.
Everybody always thought Still were the best. There are people today who will say,
"Oh yes,
they are the best." I don't care.
I bought a Husqvarna.
I had better success with my Swedish.
Yeah, which I think Husqvarna is
German.
No, it's a Swedish one, right?
No, yes.
Yeah, because Husqvarna, Sax-Delmar, and something else were all.
See, Still was a German saw.
Yeah.
Germans also made the Sax-Delmar.
Yeah.
But those guys knew what they were doing.
Anyway, so that's part of the story. So what about Aunt Wilma and her horse situation?
I guess that was probably one of the last years I was there.
You were still at home, just right before you got married.
But I
think I'm beginning to remember.
I taught school for a year.
Okay.
Wilma was my first grader and probably my second grader.
Did you keep that money when you taught school? Was that your money?
No, everything.
Still going home. No. Okay.
Everything went back.
So for all of you young people listening, if you work for a living and you get to keep the money, you need to count that as a blessing, because not everyone gets to keep their own money.
No, we supported the
family.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what happened that morning, I was driving my old boom boom. What was his name? Ranger.
Yeah, Ranger.
And he was skittish. And we met a snowplow up there, just getting to past Whipple and somewhere in that area. And just like that, we were trying to get into somebody's field over a fence, and the girls were scared. I had with me also, it was my sister, and it was Linda Hirschberger.
Okay.
The neighbors down the street from us. And see, lately that came into...
Is Linda the one that passed away in the accident recently?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That was all brought back to me later. Just a month or two ago, her family was hit by a truck or a car late at night. They were out on the highway. I'm not sure what happened. And there's been a rash of these accidents where Amish people are not displaying the lights or the other things that they should have been, probably.
But sometimes they are, and it's just accidental. But we have someone from the Netherlands listening now too. Hi.
Hey.
But yeah, so you had so basically Ranger took you in the ditch, and that Wilma probably remembers that for a long time, just because
they were scared. I don't blame them. They were scared.
You were probably a little bit scared. No.
Yeah.
Fearless.
But well, it was an aggravating horse.
Well,
and see, no, there's stories. I can talk stories all day long.
About 16 years later, you're like, okay, I'm finished with horses for good, and you got yourself a Suburban, and you didn't worry about horses anymore.
Well, that's what I've told people later. I told them just lately, if I never see another horse, I wouldn't be bothered by it. Of course, now in these days, especially in the Dallas, Texas area, probably here in Denver as well, probably anywhere, horses are for the rich.
Yeah.
They keep them because they're
When they
something.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, with the gas prices going up, there have been some people thinking about, oh, we might have to go
Eat horses.
back to horses.
Right.
And I said, do you realize how much horses eat, even when they're not working?
Yeah.
You know. So
Yeah.
I still like my
Your Suburban
My
or
iron
vehicle,
horse.
your iron horse.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not much iron these days. With a little plastic and
we're right at 30 minutes now. So that was basically
I don't know if we said anything that would help anybody.
I just wanted to talk about our first jobs because it matters, and so there were things that are really good that we learned from our parents.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always things that we have to sort through a little bit, and so I just found it interesting that in my life, both the idea to work together and work hard, but then it was all going to the family, and that sometimes creates resentment and problems, and so that was.
But it's the way it was.
It was just the way it was, because we had a lot of conversation about this. I know that from the time that I was, turning 21, and by the time my brother was coming of age, you were changing how you were doing things in our family, just because you had to think through everything and say, well, this is how we used to do it. But the one thing that didn't change was the idea that men work. We did stuff, and so we would. And so that work ethic is something that I'm very grateful for.
But I think at least some of my daughters, and all of them, they had it too. Ruth worked very hard in those early days, and she gave all her money back to the fund.
Family fund. And
but one of the things we did for her, we bought that first car for her. We paid for it,
Well, and
some of the
same for
younger
me.
ones.
You did give me a car first. Jonathan paid for his own car, I think.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it
Which
was
car was that?
I got a 1985 Nissan Sentra, standard transmission, no air conditioning.
That was
I took it
See,
coast to
that-
coast, pretty much. It was
that
awesome.
established my love for Nissan. People say, "Why do you like Nissan?" Well, I always had a good one.
Oh,
They've always been good.
looks like we put Jody to sleep over there with Aunt Wilma. So anyway,
Okay.
so we were just talking a little bit about work ethic and how that comes and how we just try as men.
Later,
It's good to try things.
over the
because
years,
we-
I helped a lot of people with their hay.
Yeah,
Because that was just
that's a
a
lot of
seasonal
work.
job,
Yeah.
And I think the last time I really helped anybody do hay was there in West Kootenai, Montana. We lived way back there. And at least once a summer, when Harold Sturdivant
Yeah.
and his sons were doing
Yes,
hay,
that's
I had
true.
to go help them. Basically, they didn't ask me to, but they were glad I did. And I did it because I was still trying to establish the fact that I love farming. I don't ever want to farm again.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with farming, but by going back and helping them haul hay once or twice a year,
You could
I
remember.
could, yes, and it would just clear my mind that I made the right decision.
Yeah, well, and it's also good to go and work hard where it's not your responsibility sometimes. Just
Yeah.
You're not responsible for all the other details. You just go, you work, you serve. That's kind of nice sometimes.
Yes, but see,
And-
the Sturdivants,
Yeah,
they were good neighbors,
They were, and
and it was good to
yes.
just go and
Well, thank you for joining me. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the main idea is that this is what I want to teach my sons more by just living, is that if there's work to be done and we are men, then we can do that. And now I have Corey too, so the work ethic is for everyone, not just my sons, but just the idea that we work hard, and it's not without a point and without a purpose, but it is part of our heritage. We can work hard. We are.
well, over the years,
That's who we are.
Essentially, in farm families across the United States. I'm not talking Amish anymore. I'm talking others. Boys are usually the ones who work on the farms.
Yeah.
But I have seen some very talented, good girls. They go out there and they take care of their 4-H
Yeah.
projects and other things.
Or they work
do.
just as hard as the guys sometimes.
Yes, and they do
Yep.
very well. I know some right now.
Yep.
They do awesome.
So that's what we wanted to talk about, and we'll thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me.